Hi everybody, this is a hopefully quick video just to help you to manage your Windows server. By manage, in this instance, what we're going to do is restrict the amount of public IP addresses that can talk to it. Now, why do we need to do that, first of all? So, there's a lot of noise in the media and a lot of noise on LinkedIn, especially alongside the data security and cyber security bods around them. I'm sure you've seen them. Having remote desktop being enabled on a Windows server is good and bad news. It's good news if you're responsible for managing it and logging onto it and being able to make changes and just check things are going okay. And it's an absolute nightmare because it becomes a great big target for anyone to try and gain access to it. Now, most people will hopefully have all this controlled, and most people will already have this managed by any sort of companies that look after their IT infrastructure. But I know there are a key bunch of people out there, a demographic, who are maybe DIYers, and there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever, except they don't know what they don't know. So this is a little bit of an informative video. If you are a DIYer, you're running your own Windows server, it could be on OVH, on AWS, DigitalOcean, anywhere you want to put it, and you use remote desktop, then please watch this video and have a look and just check that you're not potentially being bombarded with data requests. So I've set this little server up and I've left it go for about a week now. And the reason why I did that was so that I could just demonstrate the ferocity of the amount of people that try to bombard and brute force their way in. So first of all, how do we see that? And if you're not familiar with the event viewer is the holy grail of what's happening on your server at any given time, from a historical perspective and almost as live as it can be. So we're not going to, this is not a video, I'm not going to go through everything about the event viewer, but the bit you're interested in is the Windows logs just here, and then the security tab just after it. Now, in this security tab, we can see the different requests that have taken place to try and log in. So straight away, the first handful here, you can see this little padlock and you see it says audit failure. That padlock is saying it wasn't successful. This little key, audit success, they're the ones that were successful. I'm thankful that this audit success here, it looks like a lot, but it's not. It's pretty much one request. You can almost tell that by just like looking at timestamps. You can see there between 27, 28 and 29 seconds. So over the course of 3 seconds, all these different things took place. That's me logging onto this server. It's 6:35, it's now 6:39. That was me 4 minutes ago. So immediately after that though, 6:35, 36, 37, 38, and if I press F5 to refresh this, we've got a 6:39 in there as well. So what's this telling us? We can just have a quick look here and we can see that we've got 3 key pieces of information. We've got the failure reason, unknown username and bad password. That's always pretty much going to be the same because that's why they can't get in. The account name, that's the name they've used to try and log in. So 9 times out of 10, you're a DIYer, you're logging in with the username administrator, which again, not necessarily bad if you take measures to secure it, but always, I don't want it to be one of those people, but some people will suggest that you need to change that. So we can see the next one here, account name tried to log in was administrator. After that, administrator, server 2, Zot admin, I don't know what I'm supposed to say, and support. So where are these names coming from? Don't panic, they do not belong to your server. Chances are there is just a little database of known good username and passwords, and inside that known good username and password, they've worked once before somewhere else, nothing to do with you. They hopefully they'll work again because humans are quite predictable and we make a lot of the same mistakes, I guess. So that's what this is showing you. And the third piece of information, which is quite handy to see, is where they're coming from. So this is their public IP address that's trying to make connection to your server. You can see here that they will always be different. If they do ever match, it's a bit of a fluke and a coincidence. I'm not going to sit here and pretend to tell you exactly know the logic of how they do that and why they do that, but my best guess would be the case of if all these requests were coming from the same single IP address, it'd be really easy to target, to spot, to identify, and to track it down. Now, it's probably worth mentioning as well that my educational video that I'm doing today probably isn't the best solution to do this, but it definitely works. Now, the reason why it's not the best is because there are better options out there as well. The first and better option that anyone will tell you, anyone in security that is, will say to turn off RDP. But if that's not an option, it's no good. Now, a lot of people will challenge that and say, make it good enough. Make it. What is it you need to go on for? Is it because you're going on to do manual backups? Are you going on there to administrate files, to take files up and down? What are you doing exactly? Chances are, though, if it's just checking logs and things, you can set up different log reading, writing software to just have those managed for you, so you can view them in a safer environment. Now, the other approach is a hardware firewall. So if you're using the likes of AWS, they have something called security groups, and in a security group, think of that as a hardware firewall. You can actually go and give access to your known IP address and only that IP address, and that's what we're going to be doing, but inside Windows Firewall. Now, if you can't do that, it obviously won't work for you as well. So this is sort of the last piece of the chain, and the reason why I like this is because everyone can do it. So that's what we're going to show, but there is a big warning and a big caveat as well, which I'll just touch upon briefly, but I'll talk about it later as well. All well and good, you'll follow this video and you'll restrict access to only your IP address, and you'll pat yourself on the back and you'll know that you're doing everything you can to stop other people having access to your server. Except, ask yourself the question, are you always going to have access to that IP address? If the answer is no, there's going to be a day when you lose access and you can't log into the server. You'll be like a bad guy, you'll be blocked, you won't be able to get in. The server won't even ask you for your username and password. It will appear that the port is blocked. And the only way you're going to get back in at that point is to raise a ticket with your provider, your VPS provider, and ask them to log in locally, because we're only going to restrict remote connection, and undo that rule so that you can get back in again. Not something you really want to go down, especially just having no access to your server. It's quite scary. In theory, if it's a web server or something like that, it'll still work exactly the way you want it to. You just can't get onto it. So word to warning there. Just be careful, please. So let's get straight into it. So we're going to get rid of Event Viewer. We don't need Event Viewer right now. Windows Firewall. I think it's pretty fair to say that most people I speak to know it exists. They definitely know Windows Firewall exists, but they've never really clicked into it and loaded it up before. So as a quick overview, Windows Firewall will show you this little panel here. What's relevant is it's telling us that there are 3 different types of profile, also to be which you can think of 3 different sets of rules that can be enforced. This server is currently being subjected to the public profile. So any rules that are tied to the public profile, they're the ones that are being enforced right now. Public profile is active. If they say private profile is active or domain profile is active, they're the ones we need to be making changes to. So let's go into our inbound rules. Now, our inbound rules here are going to list every single rule for the entire server, obviously not just what we're interested in. So we need to look through here and find our remote desktop one. Quite a lot. Just in case you're wondering, the little green tick next to it means it's enforced. If it's not going to tick there, it means there's a rule that can be applied, but it's not enforced. I like to just sort by the local port. Now, this is a funny sort. It's not by number, it's by text. So, as you can see here, the very first thing that comes up is 10246. 10,246 is quite a high number. It's definitely higher than 135, but it's come before it because from a text perspective, 10 is smaller alphabetically than 13, just like AB is smaller than AF. So we need to come down and find our port 3389. 3389, and there's 4 of them. Why is there 4 of them? So if you didn't know, or you couldn't spot the difference, just apply it to all of them. And then figure it out backwards if it's not working the way you want it to. In this instance here, we can see that the first thing that difference is we've got two that say TCP and 2 that say UDP. We're not interested in our UDP. That brings us down to 2 to look at. Now, if we expand profile a little bit, just what we said a second ago on the overview page, we can see that the first rule is for the public profile, the second rule is for the domain and the private profile. We already know we're on the public profile, that limits us down to just this rule. So we can click in here and we'll be able to see exactly what makes this rule up. And there's a little message here that says obviously it's a predefined rule, some properties you can't modify. Okay, that's fine. The one profile, the things that we do want to change, we can change. So this is where the magic happens. This is where we're going to add our IP address into this little box here, and basically give ourselves access. Now, we need to know what our IP address is. So you can do that in a number of different ways, but one of my preferred ways, because it's quick and easy, is just to Google what is my IP address. I do it every single time. You'd think I'd know it by now. I don't. So let's add this IP address here. Now, I'm just going to block this in the interest of any clever people out there that are smarter than me and start to mess around with my IP address. So I'm going to apply that, and click OK, and that basically now has applied the rule. So if I click on this, I can see that there are one IP address which is being limited. Now, that's great, that's fine, it's going to do what we need to do, and in theory as well we can see it pretty much straight away take effect. So if we come back here and we can see we've got requests that are coming through, like I say, thick and fast, at least one every single minute. If I press F5 on here, we can see that we had login requests right the way up until we get to this one here, which, as you can see, these got little backup operators. These are built-in operations on the server. They're not to be worried about, and you can see in particular on the side here, if you can read that, but it's known as what's called a, wrong one, it's called a Microsoft Windows Security Auditing opposed to a logon. So I'm going to keep F5 in on this. We shouldn't see any more requests come through because we've blocked them all down to our single IP address. Now, like I said before, this is a bit risky because if I lose access to my IP address, I'm a little bit lost. So what I did to protect myself on this, I'm going to also open up a range of IP addresses. Now, this range of IP addresses are going to be the IP addresses that are associated with, in my case, Amazon Web Server's remote desktop service through the browser. That means that if I don't have access to my office right now, which is where my public IP address is associated, so I could be at home, I could be in a hotel, I could be in a coffee shop, insert other faddy places here, anywhere at all, I will not be able to connect in how I'm doing it right now. So what I did was I went onto the remote desktop service on AWS in the web browser, and I made about 10 different connections. Now, using those 10 different connections, I went and inspected the connecting IP address, just like this. And the one thing I noticed out of all of them was they all started the same. They all started with like a 52 something or other, 529438, that was it. So that tells me that they belong to what's called a subnet. Now, I'm not going to get in, this is not a networking tutorial, we're not going to get into networking, but what that does mean is that we're able to tell this list here, rather than choose a single IP address, we can add multiple ones. Now, that's basically explained just here. We can see here in this example, we've got 192.168.0.12. Now, that's a single IP address. If you're not 0.12, you're not getting in on this as that user. However, if we were to put the one below it, 192.168.10/24, that /24 is telling the system that it's a range of IP addresses. There's lots of different what's called subnet calculators available online. If you're really interested, you can go on there and you can have a look. If you're really interested, let me know, maybe I'll do a video on it as well. But what we're going to do is I've punched in all those IP addresses into a subnet calculator, and it told me that they all belong to the same subnet. And that same subnet was the following. It was 52.94.38.0/23. I'm going to click OK on that. I'm going to click Apply. And that's it. I've now protected myself by letting me still gain access to this server outside of my office using the AWS built-in web browser. I hope this video has been useful. If you want to see anything else, please let me know. And if you want to get in touch to talk about this, ask any questions, leave a comment on the video. Alternatively, you can get in touch with us directly on from our website, codeandcreate.co.uk. You can get us on Twitter, we're @codeandcreate. Or you can send us an email, it's info@codeandcreate.co.uk. Thanks very much, enjoy.